All right, we are live for a Sunday edition of the People's Talk Show. It's been a minute, but thought I would check in and find out what's going on and just check in for a minute. It's been a while, so I hope everyone's doing well. Let me know if we have any first time viewers in the chat. We'll definitely love to acknowledge your presence, and then more importantly, want to find out what you're keeping your eyes on. What's crossing your radar these days is worth bringing to the community. So hope everyone is doing well. Won't be long. Just wanted to check in and hear some voices from the community. It's been a minute. So anyway, trying to still shuffle things on my end and make sure I'm sane yet able to deliver, valuable content. So that's kind of why I dialed back a little bit, but we'll see how things move forward. But happy Sunday night, everybody. Let me acknowledge a couple of people here, and then we can jump into some headlines that caught my attention. Most of the things that I put forth for this evening are already in the Telegram. So if you want to stay up to date on some relevant topics, for the most part, I encourage you to join the Telegram and things of that nature, so you'll stay up to speed. But or just might go right into the phone lines and see what's going on out there. So we got Barlight Broker checking in. Appreciate you. We got Ed Chicken checking in. Says Jesus and Mike both on Sunday. Good day. Appreciate it, my friends. We got Carl Lake from Yashaba, JBW. Appreciate you, babe. Still around. What else we got? A Tribulation Prepper says, my wife loves your Pepsodine smile. All right. Appreciate that. Roger Rose checking in. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right. Lots of things happening here. I think, let me see here. It says, got to zoom in. It's kind of small. It says, I'm thinking that China and Russia aren't wanting to nuke the country they want to occupy. Um, Very likely. And that's where at this current moment, man, there's is so much noise out here. It's hard to decipher between what's real, what's not, just because there's so many angles of things that we could approach these subjects from, but they're all destabilizing and completely disrupting society, the monetary, political. It's crazy out here. So, yeah, it's just who knows? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But it's one of them things. Unfortunately, as always, whenever there's a some type of conflict, there's a lot of innocent lives lost. So that's unfortunate. So definitely have to continue to stay prayed up as always. We got Frank checking in, King D. As always, because this is about you guys and it's not a talk show unless you have someone to talk to. So feel free throughout whatever other topics or subjects you guys want to touch on. And of course, when the phone lines open up, we'd definitely love to hear from you guys directly. And if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up. Hopefully that helps with the algorithms and notify more people. I'm sure a lot of people would love to connect with us and intermingle amongst themselves as well as call in and let their voice be heard. Says call me Packers or Wood. Okay. All right. X says economic ninja stated house market crash quarter 3 or 4. Okay. So yeah, like, and that's where, there's a lot of great analysts as well as commentators, as well as just people sharing their overall opinions on what they're seeing in their area or just the overall tone of the entire global economy. And everybody in the alternative media space know that things are falling apart at the seams. They've already, for the most part, come to a screeching halt in some capacity, but just the banking cabal, they're doing their best to keep things relatively stable, for whatever that word means. And your average Joe and Jane that goes to work every day, they're the ones that are more than likely feeling the pinches, while all the talking heads, economists, and all those other people, they're a little bit, they're in a different category when it comes to uh, well, we got Wall Street and Main Street. Main Street has been suffering for quite some time now. We've covered all types of articles throughout the years on how there's been a continuous squeezing of the working class to the point where a lot of people are feeling the pinch more than others. So, but as far as the housing market is concerned, depending on what area you're in, man, if you're in a hot market where everyone is still flooding to those areas, i.e., Florida, a little bit of Texas, all the Republican-led states, those markets might remain a little stronger than your Democratic-ran hellholes, where they're basically trying to tax people out of the damn cities intentionally to get people to move, so they have more vacant lots and more room for the government to come in and seize things. The way that a lot of people are starting to mention that's happening. What else we got here? Rolf says, hard times are right around the corner. It feels like, yeah, like I said before, it depends on who you're speaking with. Sometimes might be rough for others, and then they might be for you. But yeah, I think it's going to be a slow, gradual, long process. like I say, this entire decade is going to be a whole lot of craziness happening in the meantime. So it's important for you to focus on things you can control. Try to stay sane. Try to be as productive as you can and enjoy life. God is still on the throne. Nothing that we're going to experience or experiencing now is new to our Creator, and that's why I'm very grateful that my fate overall doesn't depend upon man or myself for that matter. So, but yeah, very interesting times we're living in, my friends. Carlos says, "Greetings, Mike. RTD. Next stimulus for USD gold, silver, F members. Fed is trapped. No choice but pay fiat. No problem. No collapse will happen." Carlos, if the collapse didn't happen, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad at all because once things do change, they're not going back. So enjoy the good times because believe it or not, the part depending on where you're located at or what your situation is, believe me, it's pretty good. If you're still able to tune in right now and share your 2 cents online, it's still good. All right. Look at Jesus, not the storm. Oh, 100%. 100%. That's where like overall, uh, you know, everything's going to be just fine. Okay. So I did enough checking in. For those who are coming in, hit the thumbs up. As always, throw topics, ideas, suggestions out in the chat. We'll try to jump on them. And just some headlines that caught my attention. Nothing important really. Just some things that I thought was worth mentioning this evening, just because it's been a minute since I checked in. But I thought this article here, let me get it on the screen here. Let me share the screen here. Give me 1 second here. So I'll probably go through 3 or 4 different headlines, open up the phone lines, see what's on your guys' radar, and then we'll keep it moving from there. All right, let me put this on the screen if I can. Do. All right, I want to try to, nope, may not be able to do that the way that I want to. Okay, I'll try it this way. All right. All right, I'll try it this way. Let me know if you guys can. I think it is easier. But I thought this was an interesting story to kind of mention on, just because even billionaires might be having a little bit of hiccups when it comes to flowing smoothly in this system. But no one feels sorry for them, of course. But there's some warnings that we possibly can gather from this. But we have billionaire investor Mark Mobius says China's restricting flows of cash out of the country. And he's quoted saying, "I can't get my money out." So not telling how much he has there, but his argument is that now that China's starting to reopen and trying to dial things back or to push things forward, they're talking about expecting 5% growth this year and all that other stuff. They're putting a lot of pressure on the supply chain side of things. It's going to be somewhat of a quote unquote commodities resource boom just because China is opening up from what we're being told. But in the meantime, they're trying to control the capital inflows and outflows of the country so that they're able to control things still. So any big time investors, it looks like he's one of them. His funds is not available to him at the way he thought he was. So one of the takeaways is he was talking about how, moving forward, as more countries become more restrictive on how they allow foreigners to invest in their country, he said it might be more feasible for people to look at other markets where the governments are not as authoritative as China's is, in order to be able to reassure themselves that they can get their funds back in the future. But another thing that I really took away from this was that if the billionaires' funds are trapped in a system, either against his own will, of course, then what about your average Joe? Of course, most people are not really invested in China. But then again, it's something we can learn here on the home front, because I think more of this year, especially heading into next year, people are going to really come into the idea that the things that are promised to you, whether they be present or future, there's going to be problems with fulfilling those obligations, i.e., any type of contracts, insurance policies, bank accounts. We all know where the pressure is primarily focused at. It's on the legacy financial system, which they're trying to, I guess, stall or buy time so that they can have things ready to be either rebooted or restructured into that next system that they're trying to roll out when things come crashing down. So ultimately saying, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So that's just a little something there. Feel free to shine in your thoughts on this. Then here's another headline here that I wasn't able to validate, but it came in a very timely manner. I think I saw it shared. I think it was uh, uh, John Perez, I think, shared this, and I grabbed it from him over Silver's money. But it says Putin orders destruction of all those health things in Russia. And so I started to read through a little bit, and it got about 6,700 views. and it's circulating a little bit, and it's quoting some of their health and people in Russia. So, not sure what it's all about, but it's entertaining to say the least because I wouldn't read too much into it as far as thinking that he's all of a sudden pivoted and he's going the opposite direction of the overall system just because he rolled out the Sputnik 5. If I'm not mistaken, that's the name of their health injection. And for him to be scrapping all those billions of millions they put into it, it's like it doesn't really make sense. So but I'll do more homework on this. But I thought I would just put it out there because some people are saying that Putin's probably really disrupting things, and he's really going against the grain when it comes to the globalist agenda to track, tag, and trace every human being. But once again, they're still in lock and step. I think the globalist agenda. Then here's another one here that I couldn't pass up. Um, it looks like for whatever reason, the railroad system right now in 2023 happens to be coming apart literally at the seams. And so another train derailment, apparently nothing hazardous. But then again, I saw some video footage of people actually stopped at the train. And as it was coming by, the thing started wobbling and dropped down and start only in America, man. Only in America will this type of stuff happen over and over again, especially when it's done by, unfortunately, it's my personal opinion, our own damn government. But so anyway, we'll find out the side effects of this event as it occurs. Because once again, I saw someone posted a comment saying that due to that chemical spill that happened 2 weeks ago, it gives the government certain rights to come in and claim eminent domain for the health hazard and basically seizing people's lands and things like that. Which I didn't get a chance to look into that, but it doesn't surprise me one bit, because the goal from the start was you'll own nothing and be happy with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's all types of rules and regulations hidden deep in the cracks and crevices of our laws that hey, they just happen to roll out at the right time because they have an agenda. So, but anyway, feel free to share your thoughts on that. And then what else? I couldn't pass this one up. And so my first thought when I saw this about having freedom cities on federal land, I'm thinking like, is this guy out here basically using another name for smart cities, like some deep state type stuff, but just with a twist on it? I don't know, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. But the idea of creating freedom cities, it sounds libertarian. It sounds, less government in those regions. But I'm thinking like, who's going to get those contracts? Who's going to do all that building? Where the funds coming from? And if the government's funding it, they're going to have their hands and eyes and ears on everything. So it's going to end up being a smart city. But once again, he's becoming a bigger distraction than I could ever hope for. But for some people, he keeps them entertained and keeps them believing and keeps them hoping that there's a single individual who can come in and save the day in the midst of a reset. So, yeah, curious to get your thoughts on that. And then here's another headline here. There's a couple more out there, but it's real quiet and under the radar. But this type of stuff is still out here happening. Citigroup cuts hundreds of jobs, including investment banking and mortgage units. And also, I shared, I think it was last week, Ford, they let go 5 more top level executives at Ford here. And even the Ford building here in Dearborn, I think they sold that. And so the car industry, everybody's trying to run towards the electric vehicle side of things. At the same time, your average Joe tapped out. So it's like, where's the real consumption going to come from if people don't really have that extra to spend and or not really too excited to go take on more debt? We're already extremely tapped out as a country. So, but anyway, those are just some things that caught my attention that I wanted to just put out there. So anyway, what else we got going on here? Definitely would love to hear from you guys directly. So what time we got here? Okay, you got good time here. So let me just on my side here before I open the phone lines. Let me just trying to always fine tune things on my side. So if you haven't, right here we have all of the social media where Rethinking a Dollar can be found. I encourage you to go connect with RTD as well as your other favorite content creators, so you can stay plugged in just in case we're disconnected from here. I'd love to continue to remind people that. And also, I want to definitely give a shout out for Patriots for being a blessing as far as helping those in the community to get their food, energy, and everything up. So I want to share with you this little ad here, and then we'll jump into the phone line. So if you guys have any calls or any thoughts, ideas, or things that we didn't touch on, which is buku, a lot of stuff, call in. We'll take a couple phone calls, and then we'll go from there. But anyway, just stick around. Let me hear this. know that China is hoarding a massive amount of food? They will soon have over 2/3 of the globe's corn reserves, over half of its rice, and over half of its wheat. But when asked about it, China lies. So what does China know that we don't? China is the world's #1 importer, relying on the rest of the world to keep their people fed. This makes them the canary in the coal mine when it comes to global food shortages. As Americans, we need to be prepared for potential food shortages. That's where 4 Patriots survival food comes in. Their kits are compact, stackable, and have received a 5-star review for their flavor and taste. And right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by using code RTD at checkout at 4patriots.com. Don't wait. Prepare today. Once again, use code RTD at 4patriots.com and save 10% on your first purchase. All right. Let's have it, man. Let's have it. Let's find out what's on your radar. This is a portion where you guys get to call in and let your voice be heard. And so, as always, want to make sure everyone has a chance to get some things off their chests, good and bad. Definitely, let's not make it all doom and gloom. Feel free to share some testimonies of what the Lord is doing in your life. That's definitely encouraged as well. And let me just do a couple things on my side here. I got to edit some things so I can get it flowing better. So I think that flows better that way. Yeah. And as always, if you haven't, support the channel, hit that thumbs up button. But anyway, phone lines are open. Give me a call. Definitely would love to hear from you guys. It's been a minute. Let me know what's on your radar, and we can keep it going. Also, or throw out subjects in the chat, or bring something new to the table as far as information that perhaps we don't know about. What else you get here? China makes few good quality goods. Yeah, and they're keeping everything in house. Not much of the things that's really needed will be leaving that country. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they know that other than their strategic brick partners and whatnot, consumption is going to take a little bit of a pause pretty soon. When we go through an economic sincere contraction, people are not going to be spending and buying cheap, little Chinese goods on the regular like we do now. So they're going to have some problems trying to keep their economy flowing, and it's going to be hard to keep the economy flowing if the food isn't there and people start revolting and trying to have a little bit of a government change up. So he got to make sure the food is there to feed his people. So we're going to see some very interesting things coming up. Let me see here. Carlos says the MAGA cities, he pays $700 personal taxes. He should be in jail. I'm assuming you're referring to former President Trump only paying $700 personal taxes. I'm assuming that's the case. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that number there, but I don't think he's doing anything illegal. I think he's literally using the tax loopholes the way that they were designed and who they were designed for, which were to benefit the business owners. So if he paid 700 to him, that could be too much. So I'm not one to bash a man for basically working the system that was set up for him and by him. So, learn the rules and regulations and work it yourself. That would be my advice if I could give any. As Nicholas says, why are sellers increasing home prices with mortgage rates at 7%? Nicholas, great point, man. We got any real estate gurus out there? Feel free to chime in on this. But as far as the housing prices continue to rise, I'm not familiar with that. Most of the articles I see and headlines I see focus on the areas where the housing market is slowing down. And so, as I mentioned before, the areas where we might continue to see a slight trajectory upward of housing prices might be in the hot areas. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the Republican states that, bucked the system during the whole COVID situation, those markets might be still doing quite well. So that would be my guess. But once again, I don't know. And the question is, who's buying those houses? And from what I'm once again reading out here, a lot of cash buyers. Not many people are really taking on debt. Like, the people who need the most housing happen to be the younger generation. They're already moved back home with mom and dad. So who's buying these houses? Maybe your uber wealthy people trying to become landlords for the future, or we got the big institutions still buying stuff. All right, let me get somebody on. Hello, Carlos. Where are we calling from?
Hey, Mike, it's Dennis from Yakaba, Mexico. How are you?
Dennis, no good, my friend. What's on your mind?
Well, I was watching an interview. It was Chris Markinson, RTD interview with Jim Willie.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wow, Chris isn't going to have a program after this one.
What's it?
Jim Willie. I mean, it was classic Jim Willie. He said everything regarding everything that you cannot say.
Right.
Do you think that YouTube
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of things you really can't say. So I understand I understand that a lot. So, but the gist of what he was talking about in a YouTube friendly manner, what was some of the things he was talking about?
the child trafficking or human trafficking?
Mhm.
I mean, he was really specific with what he was saying, and I thought, wow, if I would have said that, like I did a couple years ago, they took my YouTube channel away.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're relaxing, and then they come in like in 3 months and give a bunch of strikes and take these channels away.
I wouldn't be surprised if that latter would be the case, because I got a strike for something I said 2 years ago at the beginning of this whole health situation, and it was mild, like on some. I didn't really say much. I was like watering it down. I got a strike, and then I fought it, and of course I ended up beating that little case there. But it was a 2-year-old plus video that they went back and found. So technically speaking, this is their platform. So they can pretty much do what they want to do just because they have a lot to hide. So I wouldn't be surprised. That's why Rumble, BitChute, and all those other channels, as of now, they offer more of a freedom speak or free speech type of opportunities for people. So I try to be there as well, but I don't dive down as many holes as Jim Willie does, because a lot of his message is anchored on that stuff. And so, everybody know their favorite content creators, what they provide to the community. So I tend not to go down that rabbit hole, just because everybody know what you're gonna get from Jim. So if you want that, go get it from Jimmy.
Yeah, I was just wondering if he thought maybe they were relaxing a little bit and people are getting comfortable, and then they yank their channel. I did want to ask you if you think that the sheeple are waking up. I mean, you have Woody Harrelson on Saturday Night Live being pretty specific, and then the thick woman, Roseanne Barr, coming out, making fun of the poison people.
Yeah. It does surprise me that the media is allowing that stuff to surface. Whether that Willie Harrison was accidental, I'm assuming my assumption is that that's not what he initially rehearsed, and when it went live, he probably flipped the script, or perhaps it's just all like smoke and mirrors, man. Like at this point, what's done is done. So you can be as truthful as you want, because what you gonna do about it? The government's in on it, big pharma's on it. People who took it more than likely gonna end up having to face the consequences anyway. So I mean, if the truth fully came out right now, sheeple ain't gonna do nothing still, because they don't want to disrupt the comforts of their lives. So I don't really think much is gonna happen anyway. So it's unfortunate. Like that's just how relaxed and lazy of a society we've become, because of our society and the level of comfort we've taken on. So, but I could be wrong.
Well, that's true. I'll let you get some other calls. I just was wondering, I live in Mexico. I don't really understand, the United States very well. Do you guys now have 5 seasons, like a fall flag season, like if there's some Christmas, like the winter time, false flag, then spring, summer, or how does it work?
I want to say when the weather changes, usually spring to summer is false flag season. And I remember several years ago, I remember calling that out, because it unfortunately it ends up being some type of racial issue. It used to be cops killing, blacks or something like that. It used to be around spring when people can get out and protest and march, and the Black Lives Matters was active. So, but this year, because of Ukraine and China being the primary focal point of our corrupt government, it could be any season, because I think it's global now. So yeah, I can't give you a specific answer to that question. But there is 5 seasons though.
Could it be like weather modification, but it's like false flag modification, or what goes on there?
It could, at this point, it could be a little bit of everything. Like, science has proven that they're capable of creating and trying to manipulate anything to their own agenda. So, guess we got to, as always, wait and see, man. But hey, man, appreciate you calling, my friend.
Well, yeah, just trust the science, Mike. Have a good night.
You too. Trust the science. Good stuff, man. Mr. Dennis from Yashiba. All right, my good people. What else we got going on here? Feel free to throw out some thoughts, ideas, suggestions in the chat. Let me hear some more voices, man. This is supposed to be a talk show. Like I want to talk to some people. We got about, let me see, about 100+ people on here. If you haven't, hit the thumbs up button, show your love for the channel, and throw out some ideas, some thoughts, or some strategies, perhaps things that you're doing. That'll definitely help. Let's look for some positive solutions out there. Anybody have anything in the last year or two that you've done differently, given the fact you've become aware of the circumstances around us? Feel free to let us know by giving us a call, or let me know what's happening in the chat, and then we'll go from there. What else we got here? CBDC. Okay, I see more. So Neil saying the bill titled the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act details the exercise, except as specifically authorized under this act, the Federal Reserve Bank may not offer products or services directly to an individual. Okay, so that is the let me see here. So I mentioned that, but what state is that from? Is that something in Congress? Was that there's a state? I'm not sure. I think it's somewhere in the Midwest. A state passed a law saying that CBDCs, the businesses must accept cash still, regardless of CBDCs. You can't discriminate. You got to accept cash. And I'm thinking, like, at some point they're going to literally do something about having actual cash out in circulation, so you won't have that problem. Anyway, hello, caller. Where we calling from?
Mike, it's Barlight Broker from the internet.
Barlight Broker from the internet. What's going on, my friend?
So there's a good one for you, right? I had to get my driver's license renewed, so I went to the DMV.
Mm-hmm.
They have us waiting outside in the cold for no reason. They actually moved the door in the building to make us wait outside for no reason. I get in there, I have to take a leak, and I look at the bathrooms, they're next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And on the sign it says all genders, which is ironic because at my job, when I go into the bathroom, the men's, I mean, it's a complete wreck. If you look in the women's, you could eat food off of the floor. It's so clean. I'm trying to figure out what women pushed to have to use the same bathroom as men. This is like a punishment to them. And even worse than that, I'm thinking to myself, our state is completely broke. They have no money.
Yeah.
But they have money for stupid signs. They're trying to change people using their own bathroom of their own sex for thousands of years. They're changing that for no reason. I mean, am I living in the Twilight Zone, Mike? I mean, this is just crazy.
No, but it's a part of that. I won't say it's a part of that woke, woke liberal leaning culture that is really ramped up since the whole health situation started. It was present before, but now it's taken a complete, like, they're just pushing it down our throat to where anything that used to make sense or is associated with common sense no longer applies. So that's just society that we're living in. It's only going to get worse just because, because it's not about us. They're just literally laying the groundwork for the future generations. So our kids are the ones that won't know the difference between right and left, or good and evil, but good and wrong, just because everything flies at this current moment. So it's going to confuse us, but for our kids, they're going to be, that generation, they'll thumbs up everything just because they won't really know much of a difference, unfortunately. So, yeah.
I'm not going to play their little snowflake game.
Yeah. Hey, I understand.
DMV, hey, I got no problems pissing on the side of the building. that was the end of that. They didn't have anything to say about that.
Yeah. What state you in again?
What do you think, Mike? I'm south of you.
You're south of me? Hold on. You south, so Ohio, you're not in Ohio, are you?
You don't need to look at a map, Mike. It's Illinois.
Illinois. Okay. So you're what, southwest? Okay, good deal. I was gonna say that. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's hard for me to comply to things that I know that's morally bankrupt and wrong. So I can't comply. So I'm always gonna have a chip on my shoulder when it comes to it. And it's like, how do you do that without, like, like being I guess not walking in love with people. Like, I still want to be a person that is I don't know, but it's a way around it. It's a way to get around it in a nice manner without being a jerk or anything like that about it. But yeah, it's not for me either. Go ahead.
I don't have any kids, but what a guy's got some kids, and he's catching people of the other sex going in the bathroom. What if you got a little girl and some guy's going in the bathroom on him?
Right. That's. Oh yeah, I mean, it's gonna cause problems. That's gonna cause a lot of problems. But here's the thing: at some point in the future, like even law enforcement will either ignore it, back away from it, or they'll arrest you for interfering with. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's how crazy things will go. To where law enforcement has to now make some decisions, huh?
Definitely back afterwards, and none of it makes sense. And we have money to do none of these things that they're doing. They keep messing with all this little stuff, and I know it's just a distraction because they got big things going on. Let's look over there, not over here.
Yeah, very true. Hey, man, appreciate you calling, my friend, as always.
Have a good night. Thanks for calling.
Yep. Good stuff, man. Carlos says dollars or SDRs will never die, but if you want to travel abroad, you will have to convert to CBDC with the Jabba Voodoo Madison. That's not digital identification. Like, that stuff it's in our future, man, and it's all leading to the one world governance model under one currency, which this WHO pandemic treaty situation is the foundation for this one world government crap ultimately, because whoever makes the decisions for your health ultimately is your government. And if our own government can't override that global governance that we're signed up for, then yeah. And of course, everything goes with that, the currency, everything in between. So yeah, I mean, biblically speaking, everything's right on course. Everything's right on course. What else we got here? Time for people to take responsibility for themselves. I don't care what race you are. 100%. And I'm still of the mindset, resistance is futile. Resistance is key. Like, compliance is basically means you're complicit. You're supporting if you do comply wholeheartedly. And that's where, like, morally speaking, like whatever your core is of the person that you are, that's ultimately what's going to either fuel or let me see, it's going to either fuel your fire to push back, or at some point you'll get dumbed down, become numb to it just because it becomes common. And then that's how people roll over eventually, i.e. like the people we see who still wear masks, stuff like that. It becomes a habit after a while. You lay down so much and not voice your opinion, then all of a sudden you look up and you become a victim of it. So yeah, I do agree with that, man. And that's where, like, everybody who's tuned in right now, whatever, area of life or whatever part of the country you're in, whatever you do for a living and yada, 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 you're always going to be confronted on a day-to-day basis with some type of stupidity that our woke society is throwing our way. It's up to you as an individual to speak your truth and to push back and not comply ultimately. And of course, continue to try to spread some type of good news to other people to help wake them up, because if you're still alive, then obviously there's things that you can help accomplish for humanity itself. TB says sleep. She will always be asleep. 100%. 100%. The 15-minute cities are for the poor and lower middle class, working class. That's my opinion. MW, I want to say the 15-minute cities ultimately will be the reconversion of all metropolitan areas, like to get everybody condensed into tighter communities, i.e. metropolitan areas, and like smart cities, like to be like the entire city of Detroit and the metro surroundings to be considered smart. And that's why I always say, if you look on the freeways, wherever you're located at, every a half a mile, there's a camera. There's all that stuff is being set up right now for smart surveillance cities. So it's the people who live out in the countryside that eventually they're going to pull some type of fraudulent activity to try to confiscate land. You know how that stuff goes, man. Whenever governments go under, they try to take down everything with them. So, all right, let's get some more calls in. Hello, caller. What's your name? Oops. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, Mike? This is Jimmy from Baltimore.
Jimmy from Baltimore. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, really quick. So for me, I think that
everything is on course.
Mm-hmm.
I think that more people will continue to wake up. I think that their plan is not going to work. I think that we've been here before in history.
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, I just think the plan is not going to work. I think the more that they do, the more people are going to wake up. I see people like fleeing to different countries. I see America, losing its ranking. But in the end, I just see like a better future, right? Like, it might sound crazy, I still think that it's still going to be, rules and regulations.
Yeah.
But overall, like, I see a bright future, right? And one of the many reasons I say that is, and this might seem a little naive, like, it's so much negativity it's so much negativity in the world. Like, so many people are on like a fear frequency, and as I say all the time, like, what God do we really serve, right? Like, because to me, like, we're not operating on a God frequency. We're operating more on a fear frequency. So I see great times ahead. I think that it is going to definitely be some turbulence, but I don't think that's where we should keep our minds focused, if that makes sense.
Right, 100%, man. And apart from, like, so right now, the discussion that we're having happens to be surrounding the negative events happening right now that we're witnessing in real time. But on an individual level, like, it's up to each and every one of us to create and to conjure up our own positivity slash, everything that makes our life worth living, which happens to be, the pursuit of something worthwhile, being able to work and provide for yourself and your family, enjoying the fruits of your labor, and all that type of stuff is still, it's what we wake up to every day. So outside of what our governments and everybody's trying to do to us, like, I'm still extremely excited for, what's happening in my own little world here, just because God is still doing some awesome things. So I'm more confident from the standpoint that regardless of what happens around me, I've always been blessed, going to continue to be blessed. And I've always been in a position of favor all my life. So that's what I'm going to continue to expect, even in the midst of all this stupidity around me. So that's just my own personal belief, though. So everybody to each their own, you know what I'm saying?
And look, to add to what you're saying, I love that. Like, my opinion is, like, when people start to, I feel like a lot of people are operating in their purpose, right? Like, just my opinion, right? Your purpose ain't, and the people that's listening, like, I'm talking to y'all. Your purpose isn't to wake up tomorrow and go to work, right? Like, do your hours, take your lunch break, like, drive home, like be tired and don't have time for your kids or your wife or your husband. Like, that's, in my opinion, that's one of the many reasons why we're in the position we in, because we're not operating in our purpose. I see people on the timelines, and it's just my opinion. No hard feelings to nobody. But I hear people saying nothing is going to change. We need to stand the freak up and all this. Maybe what we all need to do is operate in our purpose. When you get off this, when y'all get out this live, like, ask yourself, like, what is my purpose? Like, what do I feel as though God put me on this earth to do? And, like, what my spirit is telling me, operate more in your purpose, right? And things will come in alignment more, right? People say stuff like the body of Christ. Like, if we the body, like, what are you? You might be the arm, I might be the leg. Like, we all got a job. So, like, and I love this type of stuff. And I like I said, but I just feel like this is why we're in the position we're in. And when we shift into God body, God mind, in my opinion, operating more on our purpose, man, the future looking bright, Mike.
Hey, appreciate you, my man. Thanks for calling in.
Yes, sir.
Be good.
All right.
Hello, caller. Where we calling from?
Hey, what's up, Mike? Joe from PA.
Joe from PA. What's going on, my friend?
Well, nothing much. Wanted to get your take on, would you want the dollar to remain the world reserve currency? And if not, what would you like that to be?
World reserve currency. So If it was up to me, or if I had a say so in the Federal Reserve note remaining as the preferred medium of exchange for the world to be forced to use, sure, because it's allowed me to live an extremely enjoyable life over here. Because on top of that, the biggest component of having that status is that we've been able to finance and have access to credit that the rest of the world ultimately is paying for. But when we send them nothing, they send us real stuff. So of course I would want to keep that. But knowing that everything must change, nothing lasts forever. Whatever this shift will be, there'll be alternatives. So, the dollar is not going nowhere. The Federal Reserve system might be restructured slightly, but we're still going to be using dollars, whether it be digital dollars or whatever they're going to try to roll our way. So it's still going to be there. Now, what would have purchased us will be the question. And my suspicion is that in the future, we're going to purchase a lot less of anything, because the purchasing power of whatever they roll out is going to have to be revalued several times to account for all the other debt and obligations we have to the world. So I personally would rather keep the current Federal Reserve note going if I could, but I know that's not going to be possible. And then as an alternative to that, I'm a big fan of anything that people on the other end would be willing to accept, whether it be Bitcoin, silver, gold, you name it. If somebody on the other side willing to receive it, I'll make sure I tender it their way and to do a transaction. So anything that spends and preserves, I'm cool for it. But I'm a big fan of course, getting your weight up, because I think that's what could take power out of the financiers' hands if everybody was to get back to a little gold and silver in their possession. So, but that's just my 2 cents, man.
I see. So, just to be clear, are you saying that you would you would definitely like, considering everything you just said, are you saying that you would like the dollar to remain the world currency? Like, are you saying that
I wouldn't be mad. Like, so if we were not going through a quote unquote monetary or reset or whatever it's called due to the debt itself, the Federal Reserve note and that structure is debt based. Fractional reserve lending is debt based. So there's nothing really there. So if they could get another 20, 40, 50 years out of this system, I wouldn't be opposed to it, because I know the alternative is going to come with a lot of pain that no one in this life has experienced. Like, nobody is alive right now has lived through a Great Depressionary style reset to where your gold and silver in that time was, revalued, confiscated, or whatever, and you were given, like literally you lost everything. Like, when this stuff happens, everybody who has promises denominated in Federal Reserve notes will lose everything. Your insurance policies will fail. Everything is going to be wiped clean. And so I personally wouldn't want that, but I know that's a part of the future just because that's what a reset is all about. So I wouldn't change nothing if I could, but then again, I know that it's changing automatically whether I wanted to or not. So I wouldn't mind spending dollars forever if I could, but I know they're going to purchase less and less over time. So it's inevitable that it's going to fade away. It's just what time and how long would it take? If that helps.
Okay, so you're saying, like, I just want to make sure I got you correctly.
Mhm.
Are you saying that, like, out of even other fiat currencies, are you saying that you would like the dollar to remain the world reserve currency? Would you like that?
I wouldn't be mad at, okay, sure. So I wouldn't be mad if it was the reserve currency for another 20 or 30 years. I would be happy with that because that impacts our lifestyle here. So I would be happy with that. Sure.
Okay. I'm just trying to follow up because it's like, considering everything you just said, and even more things that you didn't say, is that, your show is called Rethinking the Dollar.
Mhm.
And, you said you would like the United States currency to remain the world currency. So,
Mhm.
No disrespect or no offense.
Mhm.
Are you trying to say that you like robbing people?
No, not at all. And so another thing, let me clarify. There's a difference between a Federal Reserve note and a dollar. So typically I got some props here. And so in one hand, I got a silver ounce that says US dollar on it. And then in the other hand, if I had it, I got a Federal Reserve note that says $1. They're two different instruments. And so one is for spending, the other one is insurance on the one you're trying to spend. And so the system that we're in now everybody knows the paper version as a head honcho. And so that's nothing that I can do about that. So Africa, South America, they're still running to that paper unit because it's better than their own currency. So in the meantime, while I'm more cautious of holding large amounts of paper, I'd rather have the shiny stuff. The rest of the world is running towards USD, Federal Reserve notes. So that right there is what will give the Federal Reserve system continuous support, because people still want to hold dollars in other countries just because their currencies are crap. So that system right there is going to remain for probably quite some time, because it's going to take a while for the rest of the world, especially people like Nigeria and Venezuela. They're still using those paper notes that I personally don't have a lot of confidence in, but for them, because the alternative for what they have is already trash. And so those dollars still serve them well. But for us here, they serve us well too, but for a shorter period of time, I think. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. So I'm not trying to rob anybody, but that's the way the system operates. So for me to try to say, you know what, stop all Federal Reserve notes, no print no more, no more digits, everybody gonna suffer. You know, everybody getting robbed already. So it's just, I'm aware of the fact there's a distinction between Federal Reserve note and a US dollar. That's two different worlds of monetary literacy, as I call it. So having both, one to spend, one to save, is what I talk about when I say rethinking the dollar. My friend, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Definitely, you got some good points there. Appreciate you, my man.
All right, that's it.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, so I see some comments out there. You know, so that dialogue there took a little longer than normal. So but make some good points. I mean, just the point of a talk show, let people get some stuff off their chest. So it's always, I appreciate being able to connect with you guys. So all right, man. But I am now tapped out. But no, this is a good Sunday live stream. I'm gonna try to get to more of these. And so the biggest point is trying to find ways to be able to engage with you guys and learn, you know, once again, get different perspectives on things so that I can improve and vice versa. So that's what the point of having this talk show is, so we can all learn from each other and encourage one another and continue to press forward despite all the negative doom and gloom the world's trying to squeeze on us. You know, God is still on the throne, and you know, in the end, believers win. So I'm excited. Overall, I'm extremely excited. Like, oh man, yeah. Anyway, but all right, my good people, that is all she wrote. We about close to an hour, and as always, I appreciate everybody for taking time to bless me with your presence. If you have not, hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel, and hopefully get back at it some of the time this week. And other than that, as far as the shorts and the shorter videos, I'm enjoying doing those because it allows me to just focus, get thoughts out quicker, shorter, without having to get caught on rants and tangents. So I enjoy that, because initially how the channel started was me just doing short uploads, but I got to live streaming and got away from the uploads. And so trying to find some balance somewhere. But anyway, everybody, be blessed, be safe. I will see you guys later. Peace.